To start us off, our first question for Dr. Mark Penning and Joe. With so many thousands of animals and hundreds of species at Disney's Animal Kingdom, what was the process in selecting which stories were told in this show?
Thank you. If I may take that one to start with, Joe.
Well,
the filming took place here at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park and at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, and also at the Seas with Nemo and Friends at Epcot. So we've got a very broad selection of animal species and individuals that have stories to tell. We layered on top of that our desire to show the incredible relationships of trust between the animals and the people that take care of them, and how passionate we all are about saving these animals in the wild. And it all comes down to how do you tell those stories, and that's where Joe and his incredible team come in.
And I think the underlying core of the show is to demonstrate the part that you don't see, the care. And when we say care, it's sort of, it manifests itself in a couple of ways. There are the activities themselves, the things that people do. But more importantly, just in the same sense that we as designers care about the story that we tell, there is real emotional care here. The show is actually a show about emotions, about the emotional investment of the people in the lives of these animals that come together at this moment where design meets care.
Excellent, thank you. Our next question for Dr. Mark Penning and Joe. What makes Animal Kingdom different from any other animal sanctuary or zoo around the world?
I think first there is a level of theatrical storytelling. We frame all of the animal experiences within a thematic and narrative experience. So it isn't just presenting animals for your consideration. It is the experience of being in a place suffused with story, in which when you do finally see these animals, the moment is filled with additional meaning.
Yes, thanks, Joe. I can build on that. You know, I'm a veterinarian. I understand animal care. And what Disney's Animal Kingdom shows me is the incredible relationships between people and the animals, the passion that the people have for telling the stories about those animals, for how we work with the Disney Conservation Fund to protect those animals in the wild and the habitats that they come from. And the way we tell the story, where we immerse you completely into that experience, that makes it completely unique for me.
Great. Our next question for Joe. What types of things did you have to keep in mind when designing a theme park meant to also function as an animal sanctuary that you wouldn't have to think about when designing other parks?
Well, the presence of live animals is utterly pervasive. Utterly pervasive. It doesn't even stop at the areas where you see animals. The presence of animals defines the entirety of the experience of Animal Kingdom. It is so that it informs the style with which we treat the buildings. It informs the way in which we lay out the pavement. It informs everything. But when you start with the animal areas themselves, you basically are starting with the animal. What does it want? What does the animal want? What does it need? How does it move? How does it live? All of those things are sort of fixed before we begin our part of the design. We must create a place where an animal feels at home. Then the next question we have to ask ourselves is, if all of that is true, what is the way in which we can interact with and see and experience this place that doesn't interfere with that? And then the next thing is, how can we fold that into a story that brings greater understanding, greater emotional meaning, greater impact than simply seeing the animal? So we're backing out from the animal itself, but that actually informs everything in the entire park, whether you ever see an animal or not, because ultimately everything you experience leads to a moment where you encounter an animal.
Excellent. Our next question is for Dr. Dan Fredholm and Rachel. I'm sure you love all of the animals, but are there any you've developed a particularly special relationship with, and which surprised you the most?
I think I'll take this one first, Dan. I think for me, it's gorillas, and you'll actually see in The Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, there is an episode where you see me with one gorilla in particular. He's our silverback for our family group, and it's funny because what surprised me is I didn't ever want to work gorillas, and to now have them be such a definition of my career. I work with gorillas here, but I also get to talk to our guests about gorillas who are at an orphanage in the Democratic Republic of Congo that Disney actually helped build and actually supports now. So it's just this very full circle. It starts with this one animal, but then I've gone a 360, and I've gotten to do everything out in the wild and through conservation as well. So I think the gorillas in particular have really been life-changing for me.
For me, it's hard to pick any one favorite animal. We have so many that are amazing. I really have a soft spot in my heart for Casanova, the hornbill that lives over at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. He's extremely charismatic. He is a character. And every time I'm over there, I just find myself staring at him, watching how he behaves and runs around the savannas. But in reality, we have so many amazing animals. One of which, right here, this is Tito. He is one of our opossums living over at Conservation Station in the affection section. And I think the thing that surprises me and never ceases to surprise me is how great these animals can be in participating in their own medical care. I'm able to basically be here with Tito. I can palpate him, examine him. I can look in his ears, his eyes, all the while he's having a little snack and really not noticing what's going on. So that just allows us to have an excellent level of animal health care from animals as small as naked mole rats to as large as our African elephants.
Perfect. Our next question is for Joe. You oversaw the creation of Disney's Animal Kingdom, so you should know everything about it. Was there anything that surprised you or that you learned about for the first time during the making of this series?
Oh gosh. I think I don't know, there's so many. I mean, I focus, my expertise is really in the physical design of the front of the house. And I learn as much as I can about the animals as they relate behind. I don't want to go into any particular details that'll be in the series, but I think what is always surprising to see is the degree of precision with which these animals can participate and connect and behave such that they can be cared for, such that they can remain as wild as they can be. It's really amazing to just watch this. Like, is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? And then there it is, some moment where an animal is brought to this point of interaction that is incredibly precise. And that's really astonishing to see.
And for my next question I have for the group, what's been the most memorable part of working at Animal Kingdom?
I can start with that one. For me, I'm South African born. I spent a lot of time growing up in wilderness and working with lions and elephants in the wild. And coming to Disney has just taken everything for me, everything up to another level that I have never seen before anywhere else. It is absolutely exceptional. The degree of animal care, the quality of animal care professionals, the design element that our WDI, Disney Imagineering partners bring to it is just like nothing I've ever seen.
I think for me, one thing that stands out is the great level of teamwork that goes on every single day here. It's no secret that we have a very large team. We have over 5,000 animals. And I'm constantly amazed, and my heart is warmed when I just see how much everyone comes together literally on a daily basis to continually raise the bar on that level of care and pour their heart and soul into it while they're doing it.
Mhm.
I think for me, it is being able to have a great influence much further outside of this sphere. Dan said we all work as a team, but we are also working for the greater good. So we have the Disney Conservation Fund, and we've funded $100 million since 1995, and that is huge. And to be able to be part of that and support that is really important to me because, in general, I'm working with these animals, but I am looking out for the greater good of all animals.
And I would tag on to that strange property of realness. Physically, when you walk around in the park, there are so many places, too many to name, where you can be and think, oh my God, I could be there. I could be in that place. It is so weirdly real. And that could be just an illusion, but it's not, because of the conservation program, because of the action that happens behind the scenes. There is a way in which this park is weirdly real. It does reach out and touch the world. And right behind that membrane of make-believe is all this stuff that's super, super real that's happening. So this odd sensation that it's real just leaks out of every corner in this park.
Great. For our next question, for Dr. Dan and Rachel, do you have any funny stories about working with the animals?
So I think there's always funny stories when you're working with these animals. They are always doing something. I talk about Gino a lot, and you see me with him. And I think one of the things that really surprised me and caught me off guard with Gino is that we were training one day, and he's very intelligent, and I just asked him to give me a behavior, and he started making up his own behaviors. And that's actually a sign of higher intelligence. So I was blown away, and I actually was approached by some authors because they heard about Gino through the grapevine. So I think stuff like that happens here every day. And it's hard to just pick one thing. And hopefully you'll see some of those little snippets in the show.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is hard to pick one. Every day there is something funny or something that surprises you that an animal will do. But probably what stands out to me the most, which I hope you'll be able to see when you tune in to see the show, was my interactions with Kenya the giraffe. Kenya is one of our giraffe that we try to make sure has a really robust program for her health. And we spent a lot of time getting her to participate in her foot care. So I learned very quickly that giraffes do things at their own pace. You can try, but you can't really make a giraffe do anything. And so the fact that we spent weeks upon weeks working with her and getting her to be able to participate in me being able to trim her hooves, sometimes with a lot of sitting around and not much happening, was just a reinforcer to me of what we're all willing to do in order to make the lives of these animals fantastic.
Excellent. So one more question for the group. What are you hoping viewers will take away from watching the series?
Oh, I can start with that if you like. I would love viewers to recognize the amazing care that takes place here at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park and come and take a look for themselves, but also to understand why we do this. And that's because we're so passionate about protecting wildlife and wild spaces. And if we can just inspire people to think about nature and to take care of the nature in their backyard, I will consider this a big success.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom is not really just about animals. It is about humans and our relationship to animals. Some of those relationships are good and some of them are not. And we want to reflect on all of those stories. That's what pulls us to conservation, and at the other end pulls us into the world of care. And I think this is a place where the more you know, the richer your experience of the place. So simply by seeing the show, the next time you come to this place, your experience will be fuller, will be richer, will be more rewarding.
Yeah, I would echo what Joe said. I think that one of the most important things that I hope people take away from watching this show is the human-animal bond. I think anybody who has a beloved pet at home understands how strong that bond can be. There are many people that equalize them to their children, and it's similar here. We love these animals, and there is a real palpable bond that I hope will come across when you watch the show.
And just to tag on to everything everyone else has said, I hope people really realize that what we're doing here is fairly cutting edge. We are considered leaders in this industry, and I hope that comes through in the show, because we're doing some really amazing things. And I'm very hopeful that people will feel that with the show, because there is a feeling that goes along with that. And I'm very proud of it, and I really hope people get that through the show.
Perfect. So we actually have time for one more question. So I'm going to direct this last one to Dr. Dan and Rachel. With modern animal behavior training focused on the animals making the choices, which animals have been the most challenging to persuade to make those good decisions?
And you just talked about one.
Yeah, I mean, that fits right in with Kenya the giraffe. She's a beautiful creature that knows exactly what she wants to do at every moment of the day. And, it highlights a real big success for us. She was the first giraffe we were ever able to actually trim the hooves of without requiring any level of sedation or anesthesia. And she gets to eat snacks the whole time. But it was reinforcing for me to understand that I'm just a person. I'm just there to help her and do things according to her schedule. So that for me is probably the perfect example.
I think for me is all the animals I work with, just about, we work what we call protected contact. So I never ever go in with them. And so that's just another layer on top of things, because it is 100% that animal's choice. And they absolutely do not have to even look at me. But the fact that we have been able to do all of these innovative things, we do awake cardiac ultrasounds on gorillas. And it's because those gorillas come up to us and allow us to put gel on their chest and to put a probe on their chest. And that, I think, also really speaks to that relationship piece. Without that relationship piece, you don't really get that volunteering to come up to the mesh to do training. So I think for me in particular, it's really having a bond with those animals and making sure they want to come up there every single time, because it is absolutely their choice.